The silver ship Aurora's Grace floated quietly above the glowing blue world of Ventara 4. It was a massive embassy vessel, part human, part alien design, meant for peace talks between species of the Galactic Alliance. The air inside was filled with the soft hum of engines, and the corridors glowed with a calm blue light. Ethan Cole, a young human engineer, walked nervously through the polished halls. He had never been on such an important mission before. The Alliance had requested human technicians to assist with damaged systems, and his name had been chosen from Earth's best. He had studied alien technology for years, but now he was about to work on it for real. His task was simple: repair the main power relay in the royal chamber of the Valerian delegation. The Valerians were a tall, graceful alien race known for their glowing silver skin and long hair that shimmered like light through glass. Their culture was elegant but very strict about manners. Ethan knew one wrong move could offend them. As he reached the chamber door, 2 tall guards stopped him. Their eyes glowed faintly blue, and they spoke in calm voices. "Human engineer Ethan Cole," one said. "You may enter. Her Highness Princess Lyra is waiting." Ethan took a deep breath and stepped inside. The chamber was like nothing he had ever seen. The floor was made of smooth crystal panels that reflected the stars outside. In the center stood a young woman dressed in royal armor that shimmered with gold and blue light. Her hair was dark, but her eyes glowed faintly silver, a mix of human and Valerian features. That was Princess Lyra, the daughter of the Valerian Empress and a human diplomat from Earth. She was famous across the galaxy, a symbol of unity between 2 worlds. Ethan bowed slightly, unsure what gesture was proper. "Your Highness, I was sent to repair the power unit on your control dais," he said politely. Lyra studied him curiously. "You are the human engineer?" she asked in a soft but commanding voice. "You look smaller than I expected." Ethan tried not to laugh. "I get that a lot," he replied. "May I start the repairs?" She nodded and stepped aside. The royal control dais was shaped like a curved chair with bright energy lines running through it. A small part of the system near her seat was sparking faintly. The energy converter had overloaded during the last solar flare. Ethan knelt down to inspect it. The writing on the device was in the alien Valerian script, which glowed faintly blue. He leaned closer to read the calibration markings. Behind him, the princess watched silently. She had never seen a human work up close before. Humans looked so different. Their movements were rough, their eyes sharp, their faces filled with strange emotion. Then she noticed Ethan's eyes were fixed in her direction. She blinked, confused. After a moment, Lyra tilted her head and said in a puzzled tone, "Why do you keep staring at my butt?" Ethan froze. The whole room went silent. Even the guards by the door looked up sharply. He turned red instantly. "What? No! I was just the power lines." He pointed helplessly to the back of her armor. "There's a calibration port right there next to... I was reading the numbers." Lyra looked over her shoulder. Sure enough, the glowing Valerian text on her armor's lower energy plate showed the converter's power settings. "Oh," she said softly, blinking twice. "You were reading that?" "Yes," Ethan said quickly. "I swear I wasn't staring at you." For a long second, there was silence. Then, to Ethan's surprise, the princess laughed. It was a light, melodic sound that echoed around the chamber. The guards exchanged glances, unsure whether to laugh or stay serious. "I see," she said with amusement. "Human eyes are quite expressive. I thought perhaps you were studying me." Ethan gave a nervous smile. "No, Your Highness. I only study machines," Lyra smirked. "I will remember that, engineer." Trying to hide his embarrassment, Ethan returned to his work. He carefully adjusted the converter's stabilizer, checking each setting twice. The princess crouched beside him, watching closely. "You humans prefer to work by hand," she observed. "Our technicians use drones for this." Ethan smiled faintly. "Sometimes the human touch works better. Machines can't always feel when something's wrong." Lyra tilted her head again. "Feel? Machines have no feelings." "That's true," he said, tightening a bolt. "But people do. And sometimes you can sense when something's off, even if the data says everything's fine." She looked at him curiously, as if trying to understand a strange philosophy. "Humans are strange," she finally said. "You trust feelings more than logic." "Maybe that's why we keep surviving," Ethan replied. "Feelings make us fix things we care about." For a moment, Lyra didn't respond. Her expression softened slightly, as if his words meant something deeper to her. Then she stood again, pretending not to be affected. After several minutes, Ethan finished the repairs. The sparking stopped and the energy flow stabilized. The glowing circuits around the dais pulsed gently with calm blue light. "All done, Your Highness," he said, standing up and brushing off his uniform. "The converter's stable again." Liara smiled faintly. "Efficient. Faster than most of my own engineers." Ethan bowed. "Just doing my job." As he gathered his tools, one of the guards approached and whispered something to the princess. She nodded, then looked back at Ethan. "It seems your timing is fortunate," she said. "We have received a new message. The ship's navigation grid has been damaged as well. Could you stay a little longer?" "Of course," Ethan said. "I'll help however I can." Liara's eyes glowed softly. "Good, I wish to observe this. Human way of solving problems." He wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a test, but he smiled anyway. When the guards left the room, Liara moved closer, looking at the tools in his hands. "Tell me, engineer," she said. "Do all humans work so quietly?" "I expected you to talk more," Ethan chuckled. "Usually we talk too much. But I didn't want to interrupt a princess." She raised an eyebrow. "You may speak freely." "I do not bite." Ethan hesitated, then smiled. "Then I'll ask, what's it like being half human and half Valerian?" Her expression changed slightly. "It is complicated," she said softly. "The Valerian nobles think I am too human. The humans think I am too alien. Sometimes I feel like I belong nowhere." Ethan looked at her gently. "Maybe that means you belong to both worlds." Liara blinked. "That is a very human way to see it." "Maybe," he said. "But it's true." There was a brief silence. The hum of the ship surrounded them like a calm ocean. Liara seemed to study him again, but this time it wasn't with suspicion. There was curiosity, maybe even warmth. Then suddenly the ship shook slightly. The lights flickered. "What was that?" Ethan asked. Liara touched a small communicator on her wrist. "The bridge reports a minor energy surge from the nearby star. Nothing to worry about." Ethan nodded, though his instincts told him to be cautious. "Still, I'll check the systems again. Just in case." The princess smiled softly. "Always careful." "I like that." Ethan gave a nervous laugh. "Yeah, better safe than sorry." As he worked again, Liara stood beside him, hands clasped behind her back. The earlier awkwardness was gone now, replaced by something like friendship. After a while, she spoke again, her voice quiet but sincere. "Ethan Cole, I must apologize for my earlier question." He smiled without looking up. "The one about, well, that?" "Yes," she said, her cheeks faintly glowing silver. "I did not understand your customs. Among Valerians, direct questions are seen as polite." He laughed softly. "It's okay, Your Highness. I'm just glad you weren't actually angry." "I was confused," she said honestly. "But now I think I understand. Humans are very expressive creatures." "Yeah," Ethan said, tightening the last bolt. "Sometimes too expressive." Liara smiled again. "Perhaps that is not a bad thing." When the repairs were complete, the ship's lights steadied. The power grid purred with perfect harmony once again. Liara looked around, impressed. "You have done well, Engineer Cole. Perhaps humans are not as primitive as the Council whispers." Ethan grinned. "We try our best, Your Highness." As he packed his tools, Liara stepped closer and said quietly, "Tomorrow I will tour the human sector of this ship. You will join me." Ethan blinked. "Me?" "Yes," she said firmly. "I wish to learn more about your people. Perhaps you can show me why humans think with their hearts." He nodded slowly, still surprised. "I'd be honored." Liara smiled and turned away, her armor catching the soft blue light. And as Ethan watched her leave, he couldn't help thinking, this mission was about to get far more interesting than he ever expected. The next morning, the ship Aurora's Grace floated quietly above the glowing surface of Ventara 4. The stars beyond the windows shimmered like silver dust. The corridors were calm again after yesterday's repairs, but inside the human section of the ship, everyone was whispering about the same thing. The princess wanted to visit the humans. Ethan Cole was already awake when the message came through. The royal attendants had sent word. "Princess Liara requests your presence in 1 hour." He quickly fixed his uniform and cleaned his tools. He wasn't sure what the visit would be like. A Valerian princess touring the human deck wasn't something that happened every day. Most humans aboard the ship were scientists, diplomats, or engineers. They had heard about Liara, the half-human royal, but few had ever met her. When the hour arrived, the large doors of the human sector opened. Liara entered with 2 guards behind her. She was dressed in light armor that shimmered softly like morning dew. Her glowing eyes looked around with curiosity as if she had stepped into another world. Ethan bowed politely. "Welcome to the human deck, Your Highness." Liara smiled faintly. "You may call me Liara when we are not in the Council's presence," she said. "Titles make conversation heavy." Ethan nodded carefully. "Then welcome, Liara." She glanced around. The walls here were made of metal, not crystal like her royal chambers. The air smelled faintly of oil and coffee. Humans worked at consoles and spoke freely with each other, laughing and moving quickly from one task to another. The difference between this section and her own was like night and day. "So this is how humans live in space," she said softly. "Pretty much," Ethan replied. "We keep it simple. Function over style," she smiled. "Valerians believe beauty brings peace to the mind. Humans believe—" "What exactly?" He thought for a moment. "We believe purpose brings peace. If something works, it's already beautiful to us." Liara seemed to consider that deeply. Then she followed him down a corridor where human engineers were repairing a wall panel. When they saw her, they stopped working, unsure what to do. "It's okay," Ethan said quickly. "She's here to learn." The engineers nodded politely and returned to work. Liara knelt beside them, studying the tools. "These are so manual," she said. "You fix things by touch?" "Yes," Ethan said proudly. "It's how we understand them." She watched as one of the workers connected a wire and the lights flickered back on. She smiled, almost like a child seeing something new for the first time. "There is something honest about it," she said softly. "You can feel the energy moving," Ethan laughed. "Exactly. You're getting it." After the tour, he brought her to the small cafeteria where humans gathered for meals. The smell of warm food filled the air. Bread, stew, and something that resembled coffee, though made from alien beans. Liara looked around with surprise. "Your food does not glow," she said. Ethan almost laughed out loud. "No, we don't make glowing food. You could say we prefer things that don't shine." She picked up a small piece of bread, studied it carefully, then took a bite. Her silver eyes widened slightly. "It tastes warm." "Warm?" Ethan repeated, smiling. "That's one way to describe it." "I mean," she explained, "Valerian food is clean, pure energy, but it has no feeling. This tastes like comfort." He watched her eat with curiosity. "So you like it?" She nodded. "Yes, it feels alive." For a while they sat at a small table together. The humans nearby tried to act casual, but everyone was sneaking glances at the royal visitor. Liara didn't seem to notice. She was focused on asking questions, dozens of them. "Why do humans laugh so easily?" she asked. "Because life is too short not to," Ethan said. "Why do you touch each other's shoulders when speaking? It's how we show friendship." "And why do you drink that black liquid?" she asked, pointing to his cup. Ethan grinned. It's coffee. It keeps us awake, Mum, and keeps us sane." Liara tilted her head. "You are strange creatures, Ethan Cole," he nodded. "I get that a lot." She smiled again, and for a moment the whole room seemed brighter. But then, as the ship shook slightly, the mood changed. A soft alarm sounded through the halls. Ethan frowned. "That's not normal." A voice came over the intercom. "Attention all personnel. Unknown vessels approaching from the outer ring. All non-essential crew return to quarters." Liara stood quickly. "The Council warned us of possible raiders in this sector." Ethan looked at her. "Pirates?" She nodded. "The Void Raiders. They attack without warning." Her guard stepped forward instantly. "Your Highness, we must return to your chambers." Ethan could see the worry in her eyes, even if she tried to hide it. "The Royal Section's defenses are still weak," he said. "We just fixed the converter yesterday, but the shields are still not at full power." Liara looked at him sharply. "You mean we are vulnerable?" "Yes," he said. "But we can fix it." Her guards looked shocked. "A human? During an attack?" Ethan ignored them. "If the raiders come close, they'll target the command decks first. I can reinforce the shield relays manually. But I'll need access to the power conduits in the Royal Wing." Liara hesitated, then nodded. "Do it, I will come with you." "Wait," Ethan said. "That's not safe," she interrupted firmly. "I will not hide while others fight for my safety." Her voice was calm but strong. The guards exchanged uneasy glances, then followed as she and Ethan hurried down the corridor. The ship's lights flickered as another tremor ran through the hull. Ethan opened a maintenance hatch and started reconnecting wires by hand. The Valerian energy systems were far more advanced than Earth's, but he had studied them long enough to improvise. Lyra crouched beside him again, her silver eyes glowing in the dim light. "Can I help?" she asked. He looked surprised. "You?" she smiled faintly. "I learned quickly." He handed her a tool. "Hold this steady." As she held the device, energy sparks glowed faintly between the wires. Ethan focused hard, sweat forming on his forehead. He could hear the distant thuds of the ship's defense cannons firing. Then he heard her voice, calm but serious. "Ethan Cole, why do humans risk their lives for others?" He kept working as he answered, "Because we know what it's like to lose things that matter." She studied him quietly. "You are not like the others I have met. You do not seek status or reward." Ethan smiled without looking up, just trying to keep everyone alive. After a tense few minutes, the lights steadied again. The hum of the power system grew strong. "It's done," Ethan said. "The shields are back to 80%. Liara looked impressed. "You did it." "We did it," he corrected. Before she could reply, a loud explosion echoed in the distance. The deck trembled violently and alarms blared again. Liara's communicator lit up. A guard's voice came through. "Your Highness, the pirates are boarding the outer decks. We need you to stay in a secure location." She stood tall. "No, I will not run." Ethan grabbed a nearby console and checked the sensors. "They're using magnetic grapples to attach to the hull. If they breach the engineering bay, we're in trouble." He looked at her. "We need to seal off that section." "Then let's go," she said. They ran together through the glowing halls, guards following close behind. The corridor lights flickered as energy surged through the system. When they reached the engineering bay, Ethan quickly entered manual commands, sealing bulkhead doors one by one. Outside the window, flashes of light showed distant battle, the Alliance fighters engaging the pirate ships. When the systems were stable, Liara turned to him. "You fight without weapons," she said softly. "Only with your mind and your hands." "That's enough," Ethan said simply. She smiled, a look of real admiration now in her eyes. "You are brave, Ethan Cole." He shook his head. "Just doing my job." But as they stood side by side, the sound of distant explosions echoed through the ship. The battle wasn't over yet, and both of them knew it. Liara looked out the window toward the dark void where enemy ships glowed faintly red. "If we survive this," she said quietly, "I wish to see your home planet." Ethan turned to her, surprised. "Earth?" "Yes," she said softly. "I wish to see what kind of world creates humans like you." Before he could answer, another tremor rocked the ship. The alarms wailed again. Ethan took a deep breath. "Then let's make sure we both live long enough for that." She nodded. Agreed. Together they prepared for whatever came next. A human engineer and an alien princess standing side by side as danger approached through the stars. The ship Aurora's Grace shook again, harder this time. The lights flickered, and the sound of distant explosions echoed through the metal corridors. Crew members ran through the halls, their boots hitting the floor in a steady rhythm of urgency. Ethan Cole tightened his grip on the wall railing as the vessel tilted slightly. He could hear the ship's alarm repeating the same warning. "Hull breach detected in Sector 9. All hands prepare for impact." Princess Liara stood beside him, her glowing eyes calm despite the chaos. Her guards surrounded her, but she raised a hand. "Stand ready, but do not block his path," she ordered, pointing toward Ethan. "The human knows the systems better than any of us." The guards hesitated, then obeyed. Ethan pulled open a maintenance panel and checked the readings. "We've got 3 breaches on the lower decks," he said quickly. "They're boarding through the cargo hold. If they reach the power core, this ship is finished." Liara frowned. "Then we will not let them reach it." He looked at her in disbelief. "We?" She smiled faintly. "You do not think I would hide in my quarters, do you? Valerian royalty leads from the front." Ethan sighed but couldn't argue. "Then stay behind me and don't touch any wires unless I tell you." A faint sparkle of amusement crossed her face. "Understood, human engineer." They hurried through the corridors toward the engineering control deck. Around them, smoke filled the air. Humans and Valerians worked side by side, sealing doors, fighting small fires, and carrying wounded crew to safety. When they reached the control deck, Ethan jumped to the main console. "The energy grid is unstable," he muttered. "If they keep firing, the shields won't hold." Liara moved closer. "Can you reroute power?" "I can try," he said, his fingers flying across the glowing interface. "But I'll need manual access from the lower conduits," she nodded. "Then I'll cover you," Ethan blinked. "You're serious?" "Very," she said. "Now go." He didn't waste time arguing. They moved down to the lower deck, where the hum of the engines grew louder. The corridors were dimly lit, and faint vibrations shook the floor. Through one window, Ethan saw flashes of light outside, bright blue bolts from the ship's cannons firing at the enemy. When they reached the lower conduits, Ethan opened a small access hatch. Inside, glowing cables ran in every direction. "I need to reconnect the power lines to the forward shields," he explained. "It's going to get hot." Liara crouched beside him, watching closely. "Tell me what to do," he handed her a tool. "Hold this and press that switch when I say." She nodded firmly. As they worked, the ship shook again. A loud explosion roared through the deck and dust fell from the ceiling. Ethan gritted his teeth. "They're inside the ship now. We don't have much time." Liara's communicator beeped. A guard's voice came through, panicked. "Your Highness, the raiders have breached the outer corridor. They're moving toward the engine bay." Ethan looked up. "That's here." Liara stood quickly. "We must defend this position." He wanted to tell her to run, but the determination in her eyes stopped him. She wasn't afraid. A moment later, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. The Void Raiders were approaching. They were tall, armored aliens with dark metallic suits and glowing red visors. They carried pulse rifles that sparked with energy. Ethan ducked behind a console, while Liara took position near the door with her guards. The first raider burst through the entrance, firing blindly. Blue and red energy bolts filled the air. The guards returned fire, their weapons humming with power. Liara raised her hand and a bright energy shield formed in front of her. The blast deflected off it, sending sparks across the floor. "Ethan," she shouted over the noise. "Finish the reroute!" He worked as fast as he could. His hands trembled as he reconnected the glowing cables, sparks flying close to his face. He could hear the clash of weapons behind him, the echo of metal against metal. Finally, the console lights turned green. "It's done," he shouted. "Power rerouted!" At once, the ship's hum changed, deeper, stronger. The shields flared outside, creating a blue wave of energy that rippled across the hull. Liara glanced back at him, smiling even as another blast struck her shield. "You did it! Now get down!" he yelled, pulling a small emergency lever. The conduits above the door sparked violently, releasing a burst of electricity that stunned the incoming raiders. They fell back, their suits short-circuiting. The guards quickly sealed the door. The fighting stopped, replaced by the sound of heavy breathing and the low hum of the restored energy core. Liara lowered her hand, her energy shield fading. "That was effective," Ethan smiled tiredly. "Sometimes the simplest tricks work best." One of her guards spoke. "Your Highness, the bridge reports the enemy fleet is retreating." "The forward batteries are holding." Liara nodded, relief crossing her face. "We have survived the first wave." Ethan sank down beside the wall, exhausted. His uniform was smudged with soot, and his hands were slightly burned from the wires. "That was too close," he muttered. Liara walked toward him, her boots clicking softly on the metal floor. "You saved us all again, human." He looked up at her, surprised. "We saved the ship together," she smiled. "True, but without your skill my shields would have fallen. You may not wear armor, but you fight just as bravely." Ethan gave a small grin. "Guess we humans have our moments." She extended her hand to help him up. He hesitated, then took it. Her grip was firm, her skin faintly warm with energy. For a brief moment they stood in silence. Around them, the engineering crew worked to repair the damaged systems. The light slowly brightened as stability returned to the ship. Liara spoke quietly. "Ethan Cole, you risked your life for my people. There are not many who would do that for another species." He shrugged. "That's what being human means, I guess. We don't care what you look like, and if someone needs help, we help." She nodded slowly. "I think I begin to understand why the Council fears your kind." "Fears us?" he asked. "Yes," she said softly. "They fear your spirit. You fight not because you must, but because you choose to. It is unpredictable, Ethan smiled faintly. We like to keep people guessing, Liara chuckled. It was a soft musical sound. Then perhaps unpredictability is not such a bad thing. Before they could continue, her communicator beeped again. A new report came in. The pirate flagship had not retreated. It was recharging its main cannon. The next strike will destroy our shields, said a worried voice. Liara's expression hardened. Then we must stop them before they fire. Ethan frowned. How? Their ship's 10 times our size. She looked at him calmly, with creativity. You've already taught me humans are good at that. He thought for a moment, then smiled. All right, princess. I've got an idea, but it's risky. I like risky, she said without hesitation. Ethan opened a control panel and began typing commands. We can overload the forward cannon and use it as a pulse beacon. If we time it right, the energy blast will blind their targeting sensors long enough for our fleet to strike back. Liara nodded. Do it. I will coordinate with the bridge. They worked side by side again, the sound of their voices mixing with the ship's heartbeat-like hum. Ethan's hands moved fast across the controls, and Liara's clear voice echoed through the comms, giving orders to her crew. When the sequence was ready, Ethan looked up. All set. On your mark. Fire, she commanded. The ship's cannon glowed bright white, then released a massive pulse of light that shot into the darkness of space. For a few seconds, the entire area outside the window flashed blinding blue. The Void Raider flagship turned sharply. Its weapons flickered, then went dark. Their targeting sensors were completely fried. The Alliance ship seized the moment, opening fire. Streams of blue energy tore through the enemy formation. One by one, the pirate vessels broke apart or retreated into the void. The bridge cheered over the comms. Enemy ships retreating. We're clear! Liara smiled in relief. She turned toward Ethan. You've done it again. He gave a tired grin. Guess humans really are good at improvising, she nodded. Indeed. Perhaps we could all learn something from your kind. As the tension eased, Ethan leaned against the wall, finally breathing normally again. So, no more raiders for today? Liara smiled softly. For today, at least. But I have a feeling this will not be the last time we fight together. He laughed quietly. Then I'll start carrying a toolkit and a shield next time. You might look good in armor, she teased lightly. He raised an eyebrow. You think so? Perhaps, she said, a playful glint in her eyes. But do not stare at my armor this time. Ethan laughed, shaking his head. I'll try not to. The two of them stood there, a human and an alien princess surrounded by smoke, lights, and the soft hum of victory. The battle was over for now, but something had changed between them. Respect, trust, and a strange sense of connection neither could explain. Through the window, stars glittered peacefully once again. The galaxy was quiet, on for now. The next morning, the ship floated in calm silence. The stars looked peaceful again, but inside the corridors of Aurora's Grace, repairs continued. The marks of the pirate attack were still visible: burned walls, damaged panels, and tired faces. Ethan walked slowly through the engineering deck, holding a small toolkit. His arm still hurt from the injury he got during the fight, but he didn't complain. Every step reminded him of the moment when the princess stood beside him, refusing to hide during the attack. He smiled faintly at that memory. Liara was not like the others. She wasn't just royal. She was brave, curious, and different. When Ethan reached the control station, he found the alien technicians busy analyzing the data from the battle. One of them, a tall Valerian named Serac, turned to him and said, "Human, your repair strategy saved the ship. The council wants to speak to you." Ethan nodded politely. I was just doing my job, but inside he felt nervous. He wasn't a soldier or a hero, just an engineer from Earth who happened to be at the right place at the right time. Later that day, he was called to the royal chamber. When the doors opened, Liara was standing by a large window looking out at the distant stars. She wasn't wearing her ceremonial armor this time, just a simple silver outfit that shimmered like moonlight. When she turned to face him, her usual confident look was softer. "Ethan," she said gently, "I wanted to thank you again, not only for saving the ship but for staying calm when everyone else panicked." Ethan scratched the back of his neck. "It was teamwork, Your Highness. I just followed the systems." Liara smiled faintly. "You always say that, but I saw your courage, You were not trained for battle, yet you ran toward danger. My people won't forget that. She motioned for him to sit. Please sit. I want to talk about something important. Ethan hesitated, then sat across from her. Of course, Princess. Liara looked down, her long silver hair hiding part of her face. You know I'm not like other Valerians, she began softly. I was born from two worlds. My mother was Valerian royalty, my father, human. Ethan blinked in surprise. So that's why… Yes, she said with a sigh. That's why my people whisper behind my back. Some see me as a symbol of peace. Others think I am an insult to pure Valerian blood. She turned away, her voice quieter. I spent most of my life proving I belong. That's why I learned about humans, your ways, your history, but I never met one until you. Ethan felt a small ache in his chest. He could see the pain in her eyes. You don't need to prove anything, he said softly. You already belong, here on this ship among those who respect you. Liara smiled faintly. You humans are strange. You speak of belonging as if it's something anyone can just give or take. For us, it is decided by bloodlines, by what flows in our veins. Ethan leaned forward. Maybe that's the difference. Humans, we learn to belong by choice, not by blood. Her eyes met his. For a long moment, they said nothing. The hum of the ship filled the silence. Then she asked quietly, Do humans ever feel lost between worlds? Ethan chuckled softly. All the time. Every human who goes to space feels that way. We look at the stars and wonder if we really belong out here. But then, we meet people like you. Her eyes softened. You're kind, Ethan. My father once told me humans see beauty even in broken things. Maybe that's your strength. They both laughed gently. Moments later, a communication alert flashed on the wall. Liara stood and tapped the glowing symbol. The screen showed Commander Varen, her chief officer. Your Highness, Varen said, his voice urgent. Scouts have detected a large vessel approaching from the nebula. It's the same signature as the Void Raider's flagship. Ethan felt his stomach drop. They're back? Yes, Varen said grimly. And stronger than before. They want revenge. Liara's calm expression returned. Prepare the ship for defense. I will be on the command bridge shortly. The screen went dark. Ethan stood up. You can't fight them again, not in this condition. Half the systems are still unstable. She looked at him firmly. We have no choice.
If we run, they will chase us.
If we fight, at least we stand together. Her words carried quiet fire. Ethan realized she had accepted both sides of her heritage, the Valerian's pride and the human's courage. He sighed. Then I'll help too. The defense grid still has weak points. I can reroute the energy flow manually. Liara's expression softened. You've done enough already. I'm not leaving, Ethan said. Besides, who else will fix your power coupler if it overheats again? That made her laugh despite the tension. Fine, human. But this time try not to stare at anything suspicious. Ethan laughed too, feeling some of the fear fade away. They both headed for the engineering deck. Around them, alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed through the corridors. Crew members rushed to battle positions. The ship trembled slightly as it powered up its shields. On the command bridge, holographic displays showed the massive pirate ship emerging from the glowing clouds of the nebula. It was much larger than before, its hull covered in black armor and strange energy emitters. Ethan stood beside Liara, studying the readouts. They've improved their weapons, he muttered. If they hit our main reactor, we're finished. Liara's tone was steady. Then we'll make sure they don't. As the ship prepared for battle, Liara gave clear, calm orders. Her voice carried strength. Ethan watched her with quiet admiration. She no longer looked like the nervous princess who had once asked that silly question about her armor. Now she was a true leader. When she caught him staring, she smirked slightly. Don't tell me you're doing it again? Ethan smiled. No, Your Highness. This time I'm just impressed. Her cheeks colored faintly, but she quickly looked back at the display. Focus, engineer. Outside, the stars darkened as the enemy ship opened fire. Bright beams of energy cut through space, striking the shields. The Aurora's grace shook violently, alarms ringing everywhere. Ethan ran to a console and began rerouting power. Sparks flew from the panels as he worked.
Shield at 70%.
He shouted. Liara gave commands to the gunners. Return fire! Aim for their forward cannons. The ship's weapons responded, sending blue plasma bolts toward the enemy. One struck the pirate vessel's hull, but it barely dented it. Ethan gritted his teeth. We need more power to the main guns. I can override the safety locks. Liara glanced at him. Do it, he typed quickly, hands moving with precision. The ship's lights flickered as he diverted power from the auxiliary engines. Target locked, shouted a crew member. Liara raised her hand. Fire! A massive beam shot from the Aurora's Grace, hitting the enemy flagship squarely. The explosion was so bright that even the viewing panels dimmed automatically. When the light faded, the pirate ship was spinning, part of its hull torn apart. Cheers filled the bridge. But Ethan noticed something. They're still charging their core cannon. Liara frowned. Then we finish this now. Ethan opened the manual control panel, his fingers flying. I can overload their own energy feedback loop, and if I sync it with our beam frequency. She nodded. Do it. I'll hold the line. For a few tense moments, everything was chaos, alarms, shouting, the shaking of metal. Then Ethan pressed the final command. The enemy's main cannon glowed red, then exploded from within. The pirate flagship broke apart, vanishing into a burst of light. Silence filled the bridge. Liara took a deep breath and looked at Ethan. You did it. He smiled tiredly. We did it. The crew cheered again. The battle was over. Liara looked at him with quiet warmth. Maybe my father was right, she said softly. Humans do see hope even when all seems lost, Ethan chuckled. And maybe Valerians are stronger than humans ever imagined. They stood side by side, watching the stars return to peace. For the first time, Liara felt like she truly belonged. Not as a symbol, not as a hybrid princess, but as herself. And beside her stood the human who made her believe that being different was something to be proud of. The ship Aurora's Grace floated silently above Ventara 4, bathed in soft light from the nearby sun. After the battle, calm returned to the corridors, and the crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage. Sparks had long faded, and the hum of the engines filled the ship with a reassuring rhythm. Ethan Cole walked slowly through the corridors, tired but satisfied. His uniform was smudged with soot, and his hands were still a little burned, but he felt proud. He had faced dangers he never thought he would, and he had survived alongside the most extraordinary alien he had ever met. When he reached the royal chamber, Liara was waiting by the window. Her silver hair shimmered in the soft light, and her eyes reflected the distant stars. She looked peaceful, but there was a depth in her gaze that spoke of the weight she carried. The weight of two worlds, both hers and alien. Ethan, she said softly as he entered. Come closer. He did, standing a few feet from her. There was a quiet pause before she spoke again. I wanted to thank you properly. You were brave, not just during the fight, but in everything. You didn't hesitate to risk your life for others. Ethan shrugged. I only did what anyone else would do. Liara shook her head. No, not everyone would. Humans. You are stronger than you seem. You think with your hearts as much as your minds, and that makes you remarkable. Ethan felt warmth spread through him. He wasn't used to praise, especially not from a princess. I try to help. That's all. Liara smiled faintly. And that is enough. It is more than enough. For a moment, they stood in silence, listening to the soft hum of the ship. Outside the window, the galaxy stretched endlessly, stars shining like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Ethan looked at her and realized how extraordinary she was. Brave, curious, and kind, carrying the burden of two worlds with grace. You know, he said finally, I never expected to meet someone like you. I mean, an alien princess who can fight and lead at the same time. Liara tilted her head, amused. And I never expected to meet a human who can think faster than most of my counselors and act even faster. They laughed softly. The tension that had filled their first meeting, the awkwardness of misunderstandings, the fear of battle, all of it seemed far away now. What remained was a quiet respect, a bond forged in chaos and a shared understanding that words alone could not describe. After a moment, Liara motioned toward a small console. The battle reports are ready. The fleet wants a full assessment. Ethan followed her, standing side by side as they examined the readings. The Void Raiders had retreated, their flagship destroyed, and the rest of the enemy fleet scattered into the void. The crew had performed brilliantly, and the ship's systems were slowly returning to normal. Your strategy saved many lives, Liara said quietly. I hope my people understand the importance of your contribution. Ethan smiled faintly. I don't need recognition. I just want to know everyone is safe. Liara looked at him with a thoughtful expression. That is what makes humans. Admirable. You care for others, not for glory. You act because it is right. He shrugged again, smiling softly. Maybe that's why we survive. Maybe that's why humans keep going. They moved to the observation deck where the stars stretched endlessly before them. Ethan leaned on the railing, watching the galaxy drift by, feeling the quiet satisfaction of survival and the thrill of adventure. Liara stood beside him, her hand brushing lightly against the railing, her eyes reflecting the same stars. Do you ever think about your home planet? She asked suddenly. Every day, he admitted. Earth is chaotic, messy, and beautiful, and it's worth protecting. What about you? Do you ever think about Valerian? Liara nodded slowly. I do, but I think more about the place where I belong. Not just a world, but people. Friends who trust me, humans, aliens. Those who fight beside me and understand me. Ethan looked at her and realized how alone she must have felt, despite her status and power. You're not alone anymore, he said softly. You have people who respect you and me. Her cheeks colored faintly, a soft glow in her silver skin. Yes, I suppose I do. For a while they watched the stars together. The quiet hum of the ship was comforting, and the battles of the past days seemed far away. Ethan felt a sense of peace he hadn't known since leaving Earth, and Liara seemed to share it. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and serious. Ethan, I want to show you something. Something that has been hidden for a long time. He looked at her curiously. What is it? She led him down a corridor he had never visited, deeper into the Valerian section of the ship. The walls glowed faintly, reflecting soft light onto their faces. At the end of the hallway, she opened a small chamber. Inside were holographic displays of Valerian history, maps of distant galaxies, and a small family archive. Liara moved to a pedestal and activated a hologram of her parents. These are my parents, she said softly. And this is the story of why I was born between two worlds. Ethan studied the holograms. He saw her mother, proud and regal, teaching Liara about diplomacy and leadership. Then her father, a human diplomat, showing her Earth's culture, its mistakes, and its courage. Your father, Ethan whispered. He wanted me to understand both sides, Liara said quietly. But growing up, I felt torn. Valerian nobles whispered behind my back. Humans saw me as too alien. I often wondered if I truly belonged anywhere. Ethan stepped closer. But you do. You belong wherever you choose. You belong with people who respect you, not those who judge you. Liara looked at him with soft silver eyes, filled with a mixture of relief and gratitude. Perhaps that is why I feel comfortable with you. You see me, not my title, not my bloodline, just me. Ethan smiled softly. I see the real Liara, and I hope you know that whatever happens, I'll be here. She reached out and touched his hand briefly. It was a small gesture, but it carried trust and understanding. I believe you, she said. For the rest of the day, they walked together through the ship, checking repairs, talking with crew members, and sharing stories of Earth and Valerian. There was laughter, gentle teasing, and the quiet feeling of friendship, something that had grown quickly between two people from different worlds but similar hearts. As night fell on Ventara 4, the ship's lights dimmed to a soft glow. Ethan sat with Liara on a small observation bench, the stars reflected in their eyes. You know, he said quietly, I never imagined I'd meet someone like you, a princess who is brave, curious, and human enough to fight beside me. Liara chuckled softly. And I never imagined I'd meet a human who could think so quickly and act with such courage. You surprised me, Ethan Cole, he smiled. I guess we surprised each other. She looked at him, her gaze softening. Yes, perhaps that is why we work so well together. For a long moment, they sat in silence, watching the stars drift past. Outside, the galaxy was quiet, peaceful, and full of possibilities. Inside, two hearts, and from different worlds, had found a connection that neither distance nor duty could break. Finally, Liara stood and brushed off her silver outfit. We should rest. Tomorrow, the Council will want full reports on the pirate attack and repairs. Ethan nodded. Yes, but thank you, Princess, for trusting me, for everything, she smiled softly. And thank you, Ethan Cole, for showing me that humans are more than my father described, that courage and loyalty can come in small packages. He laughed quietly. Small package, huh? Perhaps, she said, a playful glint in her eyes. But the best surprises come in small packages. Ethan felt his heart lift. "I'll remember that." As they parted to their quarters, the quiet hum of the ship continued, carrying them across the stars. Outside, the galaxy stretched endlessly, full of adventures yet to come. But inside, a bond had formed, between a human engineer and an alien princess born from courage, respect, and trust. No matter what challenges awaited them, they would face them together. And in that moment, for the first time, both of them truly felt at home. Not in a world, not in a title, but in the connection they had built together. The Aurora's grace sailed through the galaxy, carrying its people safely, and carrying the story of an unexpected friendship that could change both human and alien hearts forever.